All right, we're here. How are you doing today, folks? Hope everything's going well. Today, on this review on Film Tape, we're going to be discussing The Banshees of Inisherin, the most recent outing from director Martin McDonagh. His outing before this, of course, being the 2017 hit Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. But this one is notable because, in the film community specifically, because it's a reuniting of Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, and Martin McDonagh from their earlier film from 2007, In Bruges, and people were really excited about that. And I found myself included in that group of people who were excited, not specifically for the whole reuniting aspect of it, but I saw the trailer and combining that with the sardonic nature of McDonagh's previous films and the way in which he views humanity, I was very excited to see where it would go. And lo and behold, I absolutely loved it. I loved it a lot, and let's talk about why. So the main thing that I want to center this review around is this point I'm about to make, and I think it will put all of the other beneficial aspects that I discuss later on in the review in a different light. And that would be that this is one of the first films of the decade that I can say had a true vision. This is a film that had a unified everything vision. Everyone was working towards the same thing and understood what everyone else was working towards. The cinematography, the editing, the performances, which we will get into all these things, the score, everything. I don't know if I've seen a film from the 2020s work with this level of cohesion as The Banshees of Inisherin. It is a magical thing to watch, and that's what really kept me immersed. It was because everyone knew what they were supposed to do and did it to a T. And that's really something that, I don't know, there are great films out there where there are certain performances that perhaps are aiming for a little bit of a different of a tone than the other one, or maybe there's one random technical element that seems to be a little bit off, but it's very rare to see everything working so well together, and that is the case for The Banshees of Inisherin. And frankly, 2022 has been an interesting year in cinema for me specifically, because all of the movies that I love from this year have a certain aura about them. After Yang is this very brilliant, ethereal, sci-fi, hopeful thing. After Sun is almost a magical realism film with a beautiful cinematography at this vacation resort where something's slightly off but kind of not. Triangle of Sadness is a wonderful and biting, brilliant satire that's one of the most hilarious films of the year. Nope is a film that is Spielbergian in essence, which is just a great time and a wonderful adventure that mixes horror and comedy perfectly. These are all films that don't make me feel terrible about myself while watching them. Sure, some of them can make me sad, like After Yang and After Sun, but they don't make me feel awful. The Banshees of Inisherin makes me feel awful, and I really just needed some bleakness in this revolution of cinema around the sun. In this 365 days, I needed some horrid, absolutely no horizon to look forward to bleakness, and this film delivered exactly that. So perhaps my rating will be a little bit affected by the necessity I had for a film like this, but I would like to think that I can be a better orator and rater than that. But it is just so bleak and so gray, but also gorgeous simultaneously, and let's get into that. Practically everyone is having career best performances here, and let's go to the most prominent first, and then we'll take the further steps down the line. We'll talk about the acting. Colin Farrell is something else, man, and I'll be honest with you, spoiler kinda, I like After Yang more as a movie and gave it a higher rating than this, but golly, I think Colin Farrell's performance here is definitely better than After Yang. The solitude in which he exists in is magnificent, and I don't know how many other actors, and he's done this in so many different performances, can truly capture loneliness, the emotion of it, the pure guttural fear of loneliness in the way that Colin Farrell does. You think about The Lobster. There are so many performances he does that in, and he pulls it off flawlessly here. Brendan Gleeson, a very, very solemn, reminiscent performance that gets a little bit, wound up towards the end slightly. Almost a little bit unhinged at points, but in a very, once again, solemn, drab, dull way. Something I can't even really put my finger on or explain. I'm doing my best, but one word, wow. And then I think personally the MVP on the acting side of the movie is Kerry Condon, who channels this sense of longing and portrays this conflict of staying versus going in such a discreet way that once again blew my socks off. Such nuanced trauma processing that we don't even really get to see, but somehow fuels the passion in the performance. To understand that, you're gonna have to go see it, which obviously this gets my recommendation, spoiler. And then also the fourth performance that is to mention here is Barry Keoghan, who is great in just about everything he does, and his youthful sense of carefreeness, yet with that underlying, once again, trauma and sadness, just pure despair, is crazy good, and balances out. It complements the other characters as well as feeds into that level of sadness that they're all sharing together. Wonderful performance. It's all around so good. Even the barkeep, who I don't know the name of, does a good job in his limited space and time. And of course, how could we forget the mini donkey, the performance of the year, nay the decade, nay all time. We then move on to the score, done by none other than Carter Burwell. And the thing about a Carter Burwell score is it's always going to be good. I can't think of a single Carter Burwell score that I haven't thought this A, matches the tone of the film and accentuates the things going on screen, and B, isn't just good. You think of No Country for Old Men, you think of Fargo, you think of Big Lebowski, you think about Three Billboards, you think about Carol, you think about Being with John Malkovich. All of these scores are fantastic, and that does not differ here. Specifically, the repetitive plotting nature matches up so well with the repetitive plotting nature of the film itself and the environment that these characters are stuck in Insisherin. This repetitive slog of molasses kind of having absolutely no outreach to get anywhere. Some are reaching for it, some have resigned themselves to the slog, and the score just represents that perfectly, so well. And then the final shout out that I will give on the technical side of things, and maybe the final shout out and the positives altogether, is Ben Davis, the cinematographer, who undoubtedly puts in a career best performance. He's done every McDonagh film since Seven Psychopaths. But again, I don't think any of McDonagh's films have looked as good as this does. And he also has done Doctor Strange and a bunch of Marvel properties, which Doctor Strange is fairly well shot, but I did not believe that this man had it in him at all, but he certainly does. Sure, is there an assist there from the sprawling, gorgeous landscapes of Ireland? Absolutely. But it does take a certain vision to capture those perfectly and capture the power dynamic that's going on throughout the film between Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell in such a dynamic way. So I have to give a shout out to Ben Davis. Now for the slight, we do have to talk about the negative. We do have to talk about the negative. For about, I'd say this movie is 114 minutes. For the first 100, maybe 105 minutes, this was on its way to being a 10 for me. It really was. I had absolutely nothing to complain about, but I do have to say that for me, it did not stick the landing. The very end of the film, the final scene, did not stick it completely for me. There was just a little bit too much, almost kind of going back on everything that had just transpired. Actually, to me, just the final 2 lines got to me a little bit and kind of undid some of the stuff that I thought was super powerful. But hey, that's just me. It kind of left a little bit of more of an ambiguous interpretation, which is cool. And I do like ambiguous endings, but it was just a little too much of a 180 for me. And maybe it's just the way, because it's a line that can be interpreted a lot of ways. But it's the way that I'm interpreting it is how I'm basing this reaction off of. So maybe I am wrong in that, but it just didn't stick it completely for me. With all that being said, to me, The Banshees of Inisherin is undoubtedly a top 5 film of the year in the catalog of films that I've seen. I loved it to death, and I had a great time watching it despite the subject matter, frankly. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I am going to give The Banshees of Inisherin a 9 out of 10. Fantastic film. I would argue the best film that I've seen from Martin McDonagh. Wonderful. Please go check it out if you can. Definitely deserves to be seen in a theater near you. And that's about all I have to say. Go, go, go. Wonderful film. Loved it a lot. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're having a good day. I don't know what I'm going to be doing next. We'll figure it out along the way, though. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will talk to you in the next one. Maybe some news about some new channels coming up in the future. I don't know. Thank you so much. Goodbye.